I suck at jiu-jitsu. How do I suck less at jiu-jitsu?
I guess to suck less.
The diabolical leader of the Head Knot Squad.
Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to the newest episode of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show. So we're kind of doing an episode that we've done a million times, a competition episode, but we're doing it from a brand new perspective. We are going to look at competitions as a coach, and not as a coach who wants to be a competitor, but just truly somebody who is coaching a team, how to do it, how to prepare your guys, how to coach in a live match. I have referenced that I was going to do an episode about how to do this for years, and I've never done it. And so I have some really good tips that I guarantee you, if you coach live matches, I never say this on the podcast, I guarantee there are going to be certain things I say about how to coach that you have never thought of before that will absolutely blow your mind. And so I'm really excited to get to that. But then we're going to also talk about preparation, about motivating a team, motivating individuals, how to help them get ready for a tournament, and how to manage your own anxiety as a coach when it comes to competition. But we have so much stuff to get into, and so we are just going to jump into it today. So the first thing that we're going to look at is preparing a team for a competition. With how many competitions there are nowadays, it's harder to actually get a whole team of yours to all do one thing. It tends to be some people are on super fights, some people are doing this rule set, some people are doing this rule set, some people are doing gi, some people are doing no gi. But one thing that can be really helpful for a team, for camaraderie, for just excitement, for motivation, for consistency, is scheduling hey, we're all going to do this tournament. I find it at my gyms, it's hard to do more than 1 or 2 tournaments a year like that. It's just so many people, it's, even if it's a local tournament, it's just so many people have to take so much time out for the preparation and in the training for it, and then the actual day of, you need people's schedules to align and stuff. I feel like if you try to do 6 team tournaments a year, you end up doing 0 team tournaments that year. And so it can be so valuable to send out a message, send out a video, start talking about it in class. Hey guys, 8 weeks from now, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 weeks from now, we're going to all do this tournament. We're going to get as many people there. I'm going to be there. We're going to have assistant coaches there, and we are going to make a big push for this jiu-jitsu tournament. And that is where we're going to start from. We're going to say that you did this, and now you have a group of individuals that are going to compete. Something that my coach has always done is, like, at the end of class, he would always, or before you even start live rolling, he would always say, hey, who's going to do the AGF in 6 weeks, or who's thinking about doing it? And you get a bunch of hand raises, and then those people would get even some more specific training. And it also keeps people on the hook from doing them, because it's so easy to be like, okay, I'm going to train for it. And then you're like, you know what? My diet didn't go how I wanted to. I'm not going to do this. I didn't get as much training as I wanted to. I'm not going to do this. It's very easy to back out of them. And so just trying to convince your people to stay motivated for it and keep that energy, I think, is very important. Next, if you're picking a specific tournament, know the rules and train for them specifically. For instance, if you look at the rules of most tournaments, a lot of them do follow IBJJF scoring or something very close to it. Now you're seeing more tournament series try to do their own thing. So it's important as a coach that you know that. And even for your people that are seasoned competitors, a little change in the rules can mess up how they play their game. And so you want to be smart about, like, okay, this is a difference in rules. This tournament doesn't allow pulling guard, or you get a penalty for pulling guard. Sometimes you have submission-only tournaments with EBI overtimes. If that is the case, you don't want the first time your students to experience an EBI overtime to be when they are in the tournament having their first EBI overtime. Teach them how to spar those positions so they can even do it on their own. The other thing is you want to, in the camp, if you're doing a camp for a bunch of students, the biggest things that you look at is the positional spars for me. Yeah, live rounds from the feet are awesome, but 90% of your students are going to pull guard anyway. And so, yes, it's important for your guard pullers to know how to pull guard, know how to get connection and pull guard. And your guys who want to wrestle, want to be on the feet, getting reps on the feet. So, of course, important. But honestly, starting every match that way, it would be like if you went and watched an NFL practice and how they practice was just having offense versus defense, and they would just play live games against each other and just go like, okay, we're training for 4 quarters of 15 minutes each, and so we're just going to play 4 quarters, 15 minutes each quarter, and that's how we're going to play our games. No, they look at how things work on the goal line. They look at how things work when they're going to be on 3rd and long, and they are specific with how they do their training throughout the week. And so you want to do that same exact kind of thing when it comes to your positional spars. There are certain ways to do these. I'll give you guys some examples, and then I'll tell you actually what I always will focus on in prep for competitions. But first is like how you do the positional spars. You can just choose the positions you think are going to be the most important, and then we'll just go live from there. We'll do 2 minutes live from there, and that can be really fine. But what you will find is more beneficial is, so like, I'd hate to break this to you guys, but points in a jiu-jitsu match, they're actually imaginary. They let you win a match, but they're pretend. And you can actually just pretend in the gym that you guys are scoring points. And one of the best ways to do this is start with a person up on points and then do an individual or positional spar. So smashed half guard, top guy is up 1 point, and we have 2 minutes left to go. And the reason that this is so beneficial is because in the gym, it's so common for both of us to just kind of play wide open. I'm going to try to pass your guard. You're going to try to sweep and submit me. But when you go to a competition, you go with a guy who scores 2 points and then never tries to pass your guard. And you're only used to trying to sweep and submit a guy who's actively trying to pass, but a guy who's just trying to stay on top and has no intention of passing, it's way harder to deal with. Or you hit a sweep, and in the gym, so often a guy gets swept and then he goes, oh, okay, now you basically, he doesn't say it, but basically, oh, you get to play top now. That doesn't work in a tournament. If you put a fake gold medal on the line, if you knock a guy to his butt, he is willing to risk concussion, ACL tear, anything to just not let you get those 2 points. And so you need the experience of going with people that are actually giving you real resistance. And how we prep our students for this is those imaginary games of one person is up a point, the other person's down, go. That makes such a difference. And then I told you guys, the positions that I look for, you're going to find that most tournaments are won and lost on the guard pass. If you pass somebody's guard in a tournament, your chances of winning that match goes way up. Okay. And so doing open guard, sweep, pass, submit, just restarting on those. And you can do those with time, but the open guard, because points have different values, my pass is worth 3 points, your sweep is worth 2 points. You don't have to do the point thing as much. Or we look at bad positions. That's when points really make a difference, because you can make the top person resist how they actually would in a tournament by saying, hey, you're up 3 points and you're starting in you're starting in side control with the underhook. The bottom person gets a realistic feel for what that would be like in a tournament, and then not only get back to guard, but have to know, well, how do I sweep? How do I actually score points? How do I take the back? Even once I sweep, I'm still losing by a point. How do I sweep and then pass? And it gives you more real feel for competition. And then honestly too, smashed half guard is one of the most valuable positions to positional spar, because a lot of guys just don't pass well from it, and you can help correct it with all your students. And you can go with a guy who just has plays a certain guard, a De La Hiva, a spider guard that you absolutely can't pass. But when you focus then, instead of I'm going to pass this guy's guard, and just go, I'm going to change this guy's guard to half guard and then turn it into smash half guard, it allows you to control the pace so much better in a match. And again, great position to use for up a point. The bottom guy is up a point, the top guy is up a point. And you do all these different scenarios to try to prepare your students for the idea of the clock actually matters, and that the points actually matter, the position actually matters. There's a point, hold on with all your might. That gives a way more realistic feel. The last little thing I will say when it comes to broad team prep is working on some type of Hail Mary. A belly down straight ankle lock, a certain Toriando pass that even if they don't like to pass the guard that way, that like, hey, if you're on top and you're down a point, you've got to pass the guard. The guy's going to be tired in the last minute. Go Toriando side to side until he gasses and you can get your pass. My coach used to have a sweep that he called the cheater sweep, and it wasn't illegal, but he called it the cheater sweep, I think because it was so easy. And that was when I learned this concept of having a Hail Mary. I remember one of our guys was, I was assistant coach at the time, and we're coaching one of the guys, and I think he was down like 4 points, and this was a sweep that got you to mount, and he landed in close guard with like 40 seconds left. And my coach goes, hey, do your cheater sweep. And so this, obviously, it's not like saying do the scissor sweep where the guy knows what the sweep is going to happen. So it's like a term that the other guy didn't know. He started to set it up. He got the perfect feedback from the guy, hit him right to a sweep to mount, and won the match. And it's like, oh, that's so valuable. And what's funny is it wasn't like that was that guy's sweep. It was just something that my coach was like, we all need to be good at this just in case this scenario happened. And then that next tournament, the scenario happened. Now we'll say preparing individuals. That was preparing a team. Now you're going to have a bunch of individuals that make up your team. One of the first things that you will need to look at is you're going to have some new competitors and just competitors who have had big layoffs, and competitors that have had big layoffs because they have performance anxiety. It's so common in the jiu-jitsu space. If that is the case, try to work with them on trying to help that performance anxiety. There are a few different episodes of the ISAJJ Jiu-Jitsu Show that are really good for this. Honestly, the last episode that I did on competition prep was, to me, one of the better ones for competition anxiety. But if not, Champions Stay Present is an episode that I did like a year and a half ago. And so many people have told me that they have been able to perform at their best after just practicing some of the ideas used in that Champions Stay Present episode. So the next thing you'll look at is making sure people are in the right weight classes for themselves. You're going to have students that are like, oh, I got to cut 10,000 pounds. I have no choice. I have to cut 45 pounds in the next 6 weeks, coach. Talking students out of that will keep them healthy, keep them from getting catastrophically injured because they're not eating for weeks and then trying to train super hard. But then it'll also allow for better performance. Of course, there's some people that need to diet, and it's not going to hurt them. It's going to help them perform better. If your guy is 225 and that's the open class, or the ultra heavy weight class where there's no cap to it, is 220. You tell that guy, hey, dude, you need to lose 6 pounds. You absolutely need to be in that weight class below. And so only if you really believe it is going to help your student, do you encourage them doing a diet, trying to lose weight before a tournament. It's much better to be able to do it way before, to be able to get down to that 160 range and then compete at 160 after you've trained there for a while. But it's also, it's the pot calling the kettle black here, because I will still to this day cut too much weight, and it's just part of jiu-jitsu. I don't know. Don't do what I do. Do as I say. And the other thing you can do for your individuals, and this becomes harder and harder the bigger your team is if time allows, you watch your student's first opponent and note how they lose. So I don't think it's valuable to watch your student's first opponent and then be like, oh, wow, he has a great triangle. He has a great scissor sweep. He's really heavy in mount, and just have a list of this dude's positive attributes. Ideally, if your student does right, he will not experience any of those things. Obviously, there are certain caveats to that. Your student's going with a guy who only does belly down baseball bat chokes from bottom side control, and that's his only move, only does buggy chokes. Make sure to cover that with that student first, right? If you just are seeing that this competitor is a Hail Mary type competitor that's just like, yeah, this is my one move, that's all I go for, then maybe you address it. But you can also address it by saying, hey, this guy only does that belly down baseball bat choke by pulling guard first. You're going to fake shoot really quick, grab sleeve grips, and sit to your guard. He's going to be so far behind, and then you're going to look for your attacks from there. And so sometimes you will change you will change a strategy of a student for a very specific match like that. But most of the time, I don't think that that's the case. Most of the time, I think it's smarter to just go, we're going to bring your best jiu-jitsu and try to implement your best jiu-jitsu. This guy gets knee cut a lot, and you do have a good knee cut. And so be on the lookout for that knee cut. And if it's close on the first one, even if you miss it, I'm going to be instructing you to keep going for that because I think that he doesn't have a good answer for it. That's when, I think that watching tape on a student or on an opponent can be really helpful. This episode is brought to you by Kicksite. You guys know that I'm all about efficiency, whether it's training or running a gym. Kicksite helps me do just that with their all-in-one gym management software. But today, I want to tell you about something completely free that Kicksite does. Kicksite's blog for coaches. They've got some of the best articles out there, including topics on student retention, Cyber Monday deals, and even how to create engaging content for your social media audience. It's packed with practical tips that help you build your community and keep your students coming back. I've personally found some great insights that I've even applied at my gym, Head Nod HQ. So if you're looking for free resources to help your gym thrive, head over to kicksite.net/blog and check it out. Seriously, whether you are a coach or a gym owner, it is worth your time. Let's get back to the episode. So now we'll look at, what about the day of? What should you do before your first match is being coached? What are things that you should do as a coach? First, this is something that not everybody does, but big teams all do it, and small teams should do it too. Have a designated team area. These are always in event centers, always in gymnasiums. We're always in just different spots, and they're usually really open. Sometimes they have bleachers. Sometimes they have places under the bleachers. But having a spot that you guys can go, ideally even be a little bit away from the action. Not be like, okay, we're going to be at mat number 1 all day. You want to be a little further away because you want that to be a place for there to be a little bit of relax, a little bit more calmness than at the event. And then if, somebody was cool enough to bring a 32 pack of water, you got the 32 pack of water there. You got the trail mixes there. You got the Gatorade, the Element, the Powerade, the, I don't know, whatever you guys are into, the Swedish fish, the candies, the pure glycogen, people drinking honey, whatever you guys do. But just having a designated team area. Every tournament that my gym that we do with Head Nod, we will always put our bags in a spot, and one of us will declare for the next 12 hours, this spot is Granite City. That's where our gym is. And it's just that mindset of even though we're in Orlando, Florida, this spot right here is Granite City. And we can be ourselves here. We can be comfortable here. We can, chill out here, whatever we want. But this is our team area. This is our gym right here. And it makes it so it helps the anxiety of the whole team. But then it also helps for when a student needs to run and grab a coach really quick, all the coaches are already right there. And so they know exactly where to go. They're not asking everybody, hey, where's coach? And makes it so much easier. Next, make sure your students are warmed up and really warm. This will help performance so much. Obviously, it does help injury prevention, but honestly, if your students get injured, who cares? That's not what we're about. We're about winning gold medals today. Let your students die if they must. We're about, I'm just joking. We're about, but having warm-ups it allows people to perform better. And if you can, doing some flow rolls, a little more intense rolls, drilling moves repetitively that they're good at. You're just ways to kind of get your mind into the do jujitsu mindset. And so, doing designated winner, just anything like that. Something else that you can do that people may not realize is from anywhere from like $50 to $100, you can buy those half-inch thick puzzle mats, and you can get 10 of them. And I believe it ends up being like 10 by 10. I think it's more than 10 of them then, but I think it's a 10 by 10 square foot space. And it's super cheap. They're not great mats. They're not mats you want to do real jujitsu on, that you want to practice throws on, but it makes it to where you guys have your own private warm-up area for $50 to $100. And usually they pack in a bag that can fit in a suitcase pretty easily. And so that is super helpful. Next, if the tournament gives you match times, have match times. And something that's even better is have match times and then somebody to assist you with those match times if you're the head coach. Because if I am coaching a 6-minute match and it's really, really close, I have no thought about, okay, well, 30 seconds after this, I need to be across the gym coaching a different match. And so having an assistant, I wouldn't even say an assistant coach, because we'll talk about those in a second, but you have your assistant to the assistant coach, and they are in your ear like, as soon as the match ends, hey, we got to be on mat 6 in 45 seconds. John is going. And then you jump up and you run and go coach John. And having that super valuable. So just that extra little prep will make a difference too. But if you're you don't have somebody good for it, have somebody, your significant other, have somebody else's significant other that's going to be there. Just be like, hey, you can read, right? You know how numbers work, right? You have a watch. Perfect. I need you to tell me where to be. Makes such a difference. Your students will appreciate it so much. Also, if you have more, if you have a bigger team there, make sure somebody's recording too. It's so valuable. It's always a pain to then get that video to the person that competed, because you're all recording it on your own phones, and then iPhones won't send to Android won't send to iPhones. That always sucks, but it's still so valuable to have everybody's matches recorded. It helps the student and it helps the whole team. And then also understand you're going to have, even if you have 5 students, this is how tournaments work. You guys all go to PANS. PANS is 6 days long, okay? And all 5 people, you all show up. How it works, and I don't know how they have this algorithm to get it to work this way, but all 5 of your students are going to fight within 5 minutes of each other. This is just the law of jiu-jitsu. It's the same law as like you can have the biggest square footage of mats and only 2 groups going, 4 guys rolling. So 2 pairs. No matter what, those guys will eventually run into each other. These are just laws of jiu-jitsu that nobody understands. And so having assistant coaches for when, you're on mat 8 and somebody's coaching on mat 2, somebody's coaching on mat 3, so valuable. And of course, I think it's nice to have your head coach too, right? Because maybe there are times that I am, when we're really busy on a day of a tournament, I will literally be jumping into matches that are 30 minutes or 30 seconds in, just replacing the coach that was sitting there. Like, okay, switch me, I'm back. And so just jumping from 1 to 1 or from match to match. And having assistant coaches, super valuable. Hey guys, let's take a quick break from this episode to talk about something very near and dear to my heart and my butt. You guys know I've been rocking fanny packs since before they were cool. Some people would argue that they still aren't cool, but those people are wrong. Whether I'm at the gym, traveling, or just running errands, it is my go-to accessory. And recently, Datsusara sent me one of their fanny packs, and I have got to tell you guys, it is next level. It is the perfect size if you are looking for something to just keep your everyday accessories in. It's made of hemp, and it is also not just comfortable, but it's also durable and sustainable. I've been putting it to the test, and it's been holding up to the chaos of my daily life. Seriously, if you've met me in person, you know how picky I am about my fanny packs, about my bags in general, and this one was just an instant favorite for me. If you want to check it out, and trust me, you do want to check it out, head over to dsgear.com and use promo code ISUCK at checkout to get 10% off your order. Datsusara is all about high quality gear for people who train, travel, and live hard just like you and I do. All right, let's get back to the episode. Now, let's talk about why you're listening to this episode. And this is coaching live matches. This is a skill that I swear to you, 99.9% of coaches do not have. And it's so fixable. They just all do the exact same freaking thing. This is how 99.9% of people coach. The match is about to start. You're going to yell something along the lines of, "Be first, Greg. Be first. Greg, look at me. Look at me." And then Greg looks over, "Be first, Greg." One, Greg doesn't know what that means because nobody knows what that means. Be first at what? Grab the first grip? Well, what if he throws me off of it, right? Put first at what? Shoot disconnected? Is that what you want from me, coach? What does be first mean? Okay, so that didn't help me. Then from there, what you do instead of saying anything helpful is you yell the technique that Greg is about to go for anyway. You're like, "Shoot your double, Greg." And then Greg shoots his double and then gets just stuffed on it because you warned his opponent that he was about to shoot a double leg. So stupid. What are we doing? Why would anyone think that that would work? Everybody can hear you. We're all 10 feet away from each other. And not only can that guy hear you, but even if he's not smart enough, even if he's not good enough to defend that move, the coach sitting right next to you heard you, and he can yell, "Sprawl, Dave," and then Dave sprawls. So the whole goal of being first and shooting that disconnected double leg that you warned the other person was coming didn't work. And then what happens is Greg ends up in bottom mount, and you just keep yelling something like, "Oopa, Greg, oopa, oopa, Greg, Greg, you got to dig deep, oopa for me." Dude, you yelled it 100 times. It's not going to work. Greg ain't going to oopa. Greg's going to die there, bro. And so that is not how you coach a jiu-jitsu match. First, let's look at it. The goal of each match is to to do your best to be an assistant to your student who is actually out there competing. Assist them on winning the match. Assist them on getting their win. Not only that, but assist them on the general strategy of the match, and then more importantly, the general strategy of the tournament. Even if I know submissions that my student could be going for and ways he could score more points, if he's up, my strategy, especially if he has more matches throughout the day, my strategy as a coach starts to change because my job is to help you win the whole tournament. The idea that we need to be pushing for the submission in the first round when you're already up 6 points and the guy has gone pure defense, that doesn't even make sense at all. I'm trying to help you win. The other thing to keep in mind is your perspective is different from your students. Even if your student is a brand new white belt and he's competing, your perspective is the outsider's perspective. You don't feel how exhausted he is. You don't feel what's actually happening. You feel how strong the other guy is. And so to try to put yourself in the scenario and then be like, this is what I would do in this situation. Again, I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think what's smarter to do is to say, okay, I am the outsider here. I can help with the things that my student can't see. Yelling what's obvious to them, usually isn't helpful. Usually it just makes it obvious to the opponent. And so now on that note, we will talk about what you should say, what you should look for, how you should strategize for a whole match. The first thing is the first yell. To be honest, I'm picking on people who yell "be first." There's nothing wrong with "be first." But just understand that it doesn't change anything. It doesn't make any difference. What you're trying to do is make sure that when your student walks out there, that they can recognize your voice, right? That your voice can kind of cut through everything. And so, even if we make fun of one of my students, one of my purple belts, who loves to yell, "play your game." And he will yell it just over and over and over throughout a match. Play your game. But for me as a competitor, he'll be yelling. I'll be in the middle of a match and I'll hear, "Play your game, Josh, you're playing your game." And it kind of grounds me. It's kind of this fun, like, yeah, I am playing my game. Thanks, Xavier. And so that is, though there are these catchphrases that people yell: "Be first, play your game, breathe," whatever it is. Whatever you yell, just make sure it's cutting through and it hears. I'll usually just say, "Let's go, Greg." Give him a clap just so he hears, oh, Josh is right there. Josh is coaching me. Next thought, keep it simple from everywhere. Everything that is a technical instruction, especially, it should be so simple that it shouldn't be a technique. It should be, if you're instructing him on a scissor sweep, I don't think you usually yell scissor sweep, because again, one, that clicks in the opponent's head, that clicks in the other coach's head, but it should be something as simple as you see that he has the collar and sleeve grip that you would use for a scissor sweep. He's in close guard. And then you can say, put the shin across his chest. Something so simple that anybody could, if somebody who doesn't know jiu-jitsu would know the instruction, right? The more in-depth that you're trying to yell, the more detail that you're trying to give, usually the harder it is. You could honestly, I think just like I've put this point across, is like, you got to avoid just yelling random moves. There are times to yell specific techniques to do. I'll tell you that in a second. But focus on yelling just what the next step is. So for instance, if your student is on the feet and they're grip fighting, and your student is, both of his grips are coming from the outside and going in, that means your student has lost the inside fight. Whether we were gi or no gi, this is super relevant. Inside fight. You don't tell him to go for a throw there. That is no reason to go for a throw. He's not in good position for it. Help him get in an incrementally better spot. Pummel that right hand in. Pummel that right hand under. Pummel that right hand under, and then get the lapel. Perfect. Now move him around. Push, pull, push, pull. He's leaning back. Push him. He's leaning back. Push him. Simple things. Not big moves. I'm not yelling for you to go for your throws, go for your techniques. Sometimes you get on the same page as students and you can almost coach them. And usually this comes with coaching that student a bunch of times. You can almost coach them in code, and you see that they were looking for their trip, right? They're looking for their foot sweep, and you might yell, "Oh, that's going to be there next time." And then you start to, "Oh, it's there again. And then they can hit it. So you can sometimes communicate with students without showing their hand. Honestly, this is a terrible thing to say, but most coaches could just stop saying anything else but underhook and keep him flat, and their students would win more matches. Most coaches that I hear do their students a disservice by what they're yelling because it's too complex. The student can't do it. And again, it shows the hand of your student. Instead, you see your students getting close to smashed half guard. They have the head, they have the underhook, but the guy's shoulder is way off the mat. Don't focus on the pass. Flatten him, keep him flat. Let that guy make a move. Let that guy waste his energy. Keep him flat again. Oh, his shoulder's coming off the mat. Keep him flat. His hip's coming off the mat. Flatten him out. I guarantee you, if you listen to nothing else in this episode, you fix that, your students will win more matches. There are so many other things that, the more kind of ideas that you share in class, the more that's what you should be focused on yelling about, not the specific techniques. Now, okay, so here we're at yell time, but understand how many exchanges are left. Time is helpful to be yelled, but if I'm not looking at the time and trying to strategize for you, then I'm not helping you enough. So, for instance, when I talk about exchanges, how exchanges in a tournament typically work is every 20 to 30 seconds, there is an exchange. If there is a fast pace, sometimes it's a little more. Sometimes it's like every 10 seconds, there's an exchange. But typically, it's every 20 to 30 seconds, you will see an exchange happen. And what an exchange typically looks like is, let's say one person is down, the other person's on top trying to pass the guard. Top person splits the leg, steps in for a knee cut, gets the lapel grip that he likes. Bottom person starts to put on some frames. Bottom person pummels their far leg over the shoulder, kicks the guy away. Okay? That was one exchange. So you ask yourself, who won that exchange? Well, if the score is 0-0, technically the top person won that exchange. The reason is because the top person initiated that exchange, probably used less energy, and made the bottom person work harder. Now, let's say same position, instead of splitting the legs, this time, bottom person grabs both sleeve grips, shoots up a triangle. Top person postures, gets his arm free. He's in closed guard. He opens the guard, and then they're in that same open guard position. Who won the exchange? Bottom person. The bottom person went for offense. If we think in terms that jiu-jitsu matches are made up in 20 and 30-second increments when it comes to these exchanges, then a 5-minute match is what? 10 to 15 exchanges total. You get 10 to 15 really initiate a move, see it all the way through. That's it. So in theory, even if you missed every single move that you went for, but you went for 15, you initiated 15 exchanges and the score is 0-0, in theory, you should always win that match because the other guy never got any offense off. Even if your offense was all failed, the other guy didn't get offense off. Not only that, what you'll find is that during those 10 to 15 exchanges, not the bottom person, but just the other person, the person who is not doing the exchanges, they start to get on their heels. They start to second guess their own offense. And then they just sit in this phase of defense, and, the cycle of defense. And so when we're looking at yelling time, if I'm yelling 2 minutes left to my student, I'm thinking in these terms: 4 to 6 exchanges left. What has worked? What do we need to happen, right? If I'm yelling 2 minutes left and you are in top side control and the dude is cross-faced, he's totally flat, I'm like, 2 minutes left. I'll tell you guys in a second what we're, this code word idea, so I won't get into that yet, but 2 minutes left. We can chill here, right? You never say that out loud. You never say that in front of a referee. You get penalized for that. You get stalling calls for that. I'll tell you how to beat that in a second. But 2 minutes left. Let's just keep on that Americana, right? I don't care that you're not hitting that Americana. It's low risk. You're not going to lose your position. Just do that 1,000 times. Finish your north-south choke. I don't care that you're not going to finish your north-south choke. You are continuing positive exchanges that are really low risk, and we don't need any more. We're up on points. Now, if the situation is otherwise, and maybe we're down 1 point and you're the guy on bottom side control, my first thought is, okay, we have 4 to 6 exchanges left. He has to get to a scoring position. There is no score from bottom side control. So I'm not telling you to bridge and roll, anything like that. First, I'm telling you, get on your side because we need to get back to half guard. We need to get back to a position that we're allowed to score. If my student has a good half guard, I am telling him to go for sweeps right from there. Dig your underhook, sweep, because we have, now we're down to 3 exchanges left. If my student has a terrible half guard, I have to sacrifice an exchange and I have to yell, get all the way to your closed guard. Don't wait here. All the way to your closed guard, all the way to your spider guard, where I feel like my student has the best to win exchanges. And so again, this is when we're talking about kind of guiding the match. And you'll find that the shorter the time gets, the more important your job as a coach typically becomes. And so those last 2 minutes to me are when you really need good coaching. That is when it's so valuable to have a coach with strategy. And next, after understanding yelling time and understanding exchanges, have a code word for stalling. I don't think I've ever told you guys this on the podcast. I've done this for years with my students. I'll never tell you guys what my code word is. And honestly, most likely it's so subtle, you would probably never even know coaching against me what it is. But if you have a code word for stalling, it keeps you from having to say things like, chill out, don't move from here, Greg, we're up on points. Because as soon as you yell that, the ref, it clicks in their mind and they're like, oh, well, guess what? You're on the clock for 30 seconds now. And now, because again, you said too much, you put your student in a worse spot. Instead, being really, really smart about having that code word, dude's up on points, inside control on top, make sure he's hearing that code word. Make sure he knows that any submission that you yell after is a lie. Like, bro, I'm just yelling these for the ref. I'm not yelling these for you. You chill out. We already did our jiu-jitsu. We already won this match. It was on your opponent that he didn't know how to handle it. Next, know your strengths as a coach. Not all coaches are good at everything, and that's okay. You know, if you're new, you're new. There's nothing you can do about it. I remember my first tournament that I brought a team to that was after I had started my school. It was like this group, I probably brought 6 to 8 people, and it was such a weird feeling going, these 6 to 8 people, all the jiu-jitsu that they are equipped to use is stuff that I taught them. And I don't know enough yet. I have not taught them enough yet. They don't know this, they don't know that. And I mean, they didn't do great, to be honest. I think I did have one guy win. But it was such a learning experience because I was like, okay, I have certain strengths as a coach. There were certain places I was really helpful, but then there were other places that I wasn't. And looking back, it's like that's just that mindset allowed me to get better at coaching all these other places. But not only that, you may be really good at every part of jiu-jitsu and horrible at stand-up, but you may have a judo black belt on your team, or you may have a really good wrestler on your team that is a good coach also. And so maybe during the stand-up portions of the match, you know your strengths and you know your assistant coach's strength, and you're looking over at him and maybe even just repeating what he's yelling, and trying to, utilize that. Now, there are, I told you guys, there are, sorry, I lost my place in my notes. Okay, so there are certain times that we will actually call out specific moves to go for. Usually, it's past tense. Usually, there's an exchange that happens. Your guy gets to X guard. He tries to take the guy towards the guy's hands. The guy bases. Your guy tries to stand up. It doesn't work. Get out of the position. You yell to your student. If you get to half guard again, take him to his butt. Half guard again, or if you get to X guard again, take him to his butt. Then you have same exchange happens a little later in the match, and then you're already yelling, knock him to his butt, knock him to his butt. That is a good time to yell a specific technique. If you get there again, go for this, because most of the time the opponent doesn't see that many moves ahead anyway, but it makes it a lot easier for your student to go, oh, that was where I missed. And it almost gives them this confidence to try to get back to that position. Oh, I missed my X guard sweep, but coach just gave me what I should have done instead. And then you go for that. So that's the only time for me that I ever really will yell specific submissions, unless the game has just gotten so slow, the guy's so tired, and I'm like, finish that wrist lock, and then my student jumps on it. Something like that. But usually yelling individual techniques only warns the other person that they're coming. This episode is brought to you by BJJ Mental Models Premium. So right now I want to talk to you guys about something that every jiu-jitsu practitioner needs: better understanding of jiu-jitsu concepts. That is why I am pumped to remind you guys that BJJ Mental Models is still offering their premium course, Jiu Jitsu for Imbeciles by Rob Bernacki, for free to ISAJJ Jiu Jitsu Show listeners. This is not just any course. It's Rob breaking down the fundamentals of his conceptual jiu-jitsu framework in a way that is both straightforward and mind-blowing. Whether you're a beginner or just looking to solidify your understanding of the core concepts in jiu-jitsu, this course will help your game. To get the free course, just go to bjjmentalmodels.com/ISUCK and sign up. You've got nothing to lose, and you have a ton of knowledge to gain. Let's get back to the episode. The other thing to think about too is there are times that you have to be the one to slow the pace as a coach. There are, like you hear people overuse breathe and look at me and stuff like that, but there are times that you should actually do that. Few and far in between, you got to learn these by feel. But there are times that you can just see the match is getting crazy and you're like, hey, we got to calm down. Specifically, I was coaching my now black belt Richie. It was the finals of the St. Louis Open. And we're trying to win the team trophy with all of TAC team. We have just a really, really tough crew that we brought to compete. And the open classes are happening now, and the team title is still up for grabs. And so these matches are like, they matter so much. We're trying to get every single win. And Richie's having a really, really close match with a tough Brazilian guy. And there was this point that he sweeps the guy. And it was like we got up on points, and it was a few exchanges of knocking this guy down. The guy stood up, knock him back down, really athletic, cool looking jiu-jitsu that is very exciting. And I could feel the excitement. There's also 50 people there probably at the mat. And we are about 4 rows deep, just crushing each other. I'm pushed up against the barricade. I'm literally, my feet are off the ground. I'm standing on the barricade being held up by the people behind me, just pushing into me. And I still remember on that, everybody's going crazy for the finish because there's 90 seconds left. And I remember opening my arms and trying to hold some of my crazy students back. Richie, look at me. And he looked right up at me. And I said, take your time. And he gave me the nod, took his time, won the match perfectly. And I really think that it's easy to get emotional in a match. As the coach, your job is to try to not do that, is to try to be emotionless and just be able to see the situation and go, hey, breathe. Sometimes you're reminding yourself to do that too. But just that little bit of confidence that a coach can do that to her. I have so many times that I've been in situations in tournaments as a competitor, and my coach Kyle has yelled something like that to me that just is like, oh my gosh, thanks, Kyle. I was about to just hulk out for no reason. Thank you. And so there are definitely times to do it. It shouldn't be your catchphrase, but there are definitely times to yell something like, look at me, breathe, when you're just trying to slow the pace. The pace just, it's like the snowball starts rolling downhill and you're just trying to stop it. And that's when you'd use those. Now, the last thing, and maybe the most important thing when it comes to coaching live matches, is what is your relationship to the ref? And what should you be doing? What should you be saying to the ref? What shouldn't you be saying to the ref? First, be nice to the referees. Not because they're humans too, screw them. But not because their job is hard. Their job is hard, but still screw them. But they keep refereeing. And so if you're just berating a ref at the beginning of the day and you're going to have 25 students compete, most likely your students are going to be on that mat again. And do you think that he's going to be kind to you because you yelled at him? No, probably not. So as much as you can, be kind to the ref. Just shake his hand. If there's ever a bad call, ask for an explanation, but try to not be too aggressive. This will make it so much easier. There's so many refs that I've gotten great calls from over the years because I have built a relationship of, even when they made a bad call and they knew it, of not yelling at them and being like, you idiot, what's wrong with you? It's so easy to do that because we care. We care about jiu-jitsu. We want to win. And so, and sometimes they do knowingly screw you. That happens. But I think that happens less than people realize. I think a lot of the times it's just so close to call, they just go one way. And if it's not your way, you're like, he hates me. It's because I'm white, I mean, it's never for me because I'm white, but it's because my last name's McKinney, and so, I just don't think that that's as much of the case because, you gain favoritism from refs by being around whatever that tournament series is. Even if you're not like very nice to the ref, even if you're just there, a lot of times refs start to favor guys that they recognize. Just part of how human nature works, I think. And so there are definitely times that you could yell at the ref, just not as necessary. Now, when it comes to points, something that you can do that will prevent you from having to yell at the ref is you call out the points before that they come. You don't call them out after. You don't yell, where was my 2 points, ref, after 10 seconds of the student being on top after hitting a sweep. As soon as he hits his sweep, you say something along the lines of, nice, good sweep right there. 3 seconds, you're going to get 2 points. Just like that. And then you'll even count. All right, 3, 2, 1, you should get your points right now. Perfect. And usually the ref, you can coach the ref into giving you those points. I don't remember who I saw this from the first time, but I remember seeing it. It was just a guy who knew the rules really well. And he was trying to more help his student. But I was like, man, this ref is paying so much attention to what the guy is telling him to score. It makes it so much easier than yelling it in past tense. You should have gotten those points. What's wrong with you, ref? The ref never gives you those points. Usually he just gives you a dirty look, okay? Try to not insult your ref. Unless it's at the end of the day, then you can insult them a little more. And then, depending on the tournament, have a token Brazilian with you, bro. I swear to you, I wish that this wasn't the case. But having somebody that can speak Portuguese makes a huge difference. There were times at the St. Louis Open, I want to say it was that first one that I was just telling you guys about, where my friend Junior Silva always loves to have me coach with him. So he'll always claim it's because his student doesn't understand him. But I think a lot of it has to do with that we're a really good complement to each other. The way that I coach complements the way that he coaches and vice versa. And so there was a specific match, and this happened a few times throughout the day, but just a specific one that I can still see in my head. There is this tournament, there is this female ref, and she seemed like she had just gotten off the boat. Like I don't think she had much English in her repertoire. And so she missed 2 points. And I mean, it was blatant. It wasn't like this was a debatable thing. It was like the guy just fell over from my student's closed guard. My student came on top. And then she started counting as if she was going to give points for mount. The other guy gets out of mount. And then she only gave an advantage. She forgot to give the 2 points for the sweep. And so I yelled, 2 points for the sweep, professor. That's always what you yell as professor. Because even if they're not a black belt, it's the only people I call professor. I think that term is stupid. But when you're a ref, professor, great one. Please give my students these 2 points. You're the best. You're the best referee of all time. Give my student these 2 points. Professor is like this, when I'm yelling it, it's really derogatory. I'm trying to insult you and say, hey, professor, you should know that this is 2 points. But I'm not saying that. It is more of like, hey, professor, you missed those 2 points. Professor, you missed those. And then I look over at Junior. I said, say that again in Portuguese. He said it, and then the hands went up for 2 points. And when we realized that we had that superpower, I've used that so many times since then. And honestly, I think it could just be a language barrier thing. I think that they just some of these people just don't speak English, and they're like, I don't know, this Chinese Mexican guy is yelling stuff at me. I I don't know what he's saying. He seems angry, but maybe he's just Chinese. I don't know. Like, what is and then you hear it in Portuguese and you're like, oh crap, I did miss those 2 points. Oh, that was probably why he was angry. And then you give him. And so have a token Brazilian. You think I'm joking, makes a huge difference. Now we'll look at post-match. So deconstructing. If your student just gets worked and he has more matches, she has more matches, try to fix one thing. Don't go off, you missed this, you missed this, you missed this, you missed this. It's only going to cause second guessing, and there's no time to fix stuff, right? That time has passed. If your student still has matches, it's nice to always, if you see something, big, like, hey, you kept losing the underhook, don't do that anymore. Just make sure you keep your underhook when you're winning it, right? You kept missing this specific sweep. This is why you're missing it. Something simple that can be corrected like that, I think that's worth it, but only one thing. But what's more important is, like, when your student has another match, if you could have been watching the whole division and you say, hey, this next guy is going to try to pull guard on you really quick. Don't let him connect to you. Just make it hard for him to pull guard. And then once he does get his guard pull, right into your pass. And just something simple like that. Just how to start the match for the next one keeps them in the zone, and it doesn't overwhelm them with detail, right? You just give them something simple like, hey, go do this. And you're like, okay. So then they're already in the just do jiu-jitsu mindset that we talk about a lot. But then they're also like, okay, sweet. I'm going to knee cut this guy right off his pull. And then when it happens, their faith in you goes up, their faith in themselves goes up, and usually they're cooking. And so that's the thing about winning. You have somebody win worlds, master worlds, something like that. Usually they're getting a ton of matches throughout that day, 4, 5, 6 matches in one division. And a good coach can kind of just give a simple thought of like, hey, sometimes the thought is as simple as this: do exactly what you did for that last match, because this guy is going to fall into it even worse. Sometimes it's that simple. And so it's so valuable, though, to know, like, okay, if my student has another match. Now, post-tournament, that's when it's important to give broad ideas and goals to try to attain, because the lessons that we learn in tournaments, they stay in our head so much more than you can get knee cut 1,000 times at the gym. You can get knee cut one time at the tournament, and I promise you remember the knee cut at the tournament, and you will try to correct the knee cut from the tournament. And so using that to your advantage as a coach and saying, okay, this is what I saw you miss. Spend the next, you had no idea how to get out of bottom side control. Spend the next 6 weeks just focused on bottom side control. And then you give them a goal. And then 6 months from now, 4 months from now, we're going to aim for this tournament, and you're going to try to win this tournament. And that is how I think you can really, really help build momentum for your team and for your students. That's like the big thing that you'll find is that competition teams need momentum to stay competing. That can be super helpful. So now we'll just look for 2 random tips to finish this episode off. I really was either this episode sucked because I didn't have enough content in it, or I was just a lot clearer than I normally am. But maybe this is something that I actually know how to do. And so that's why this episode's a little shorter than they have been in recent memory. But 2 random tips. Understand the benefit of competitions for you as a coach. A lot of times, jiu-jitsu competition is like Comic-Con for jiu-jitsu losers, and coaches are the biggest jiu-jitsu losers out of all of us, right? We're the most addicted to jiu-jitsu and the biggest losers for sure. And so use this for networking. I would say almost every sponsorship I've ever gotten has come from competitions, not from actually winning the divisions. Sometimes you get to meet certain people because you win your division, right? But like just by being a black belt, you get to meet those people usually anyway. You get to see old friends. You get to reconnect with old friends, discuss what's working in their gyms, what's not working, get certain tips that way. But there are just so many of the business opportunities that I've gotten have come from just showing up to jiu-jitsu competitions and then doing it consistently. You just kind of become a familiar face, and people recognize you as like, oh, this is a jiu-jitsu person. This person is really in on jiu-jitsu. Their students are really in on jiu-jitsu. And you just focus on being consistent with that. And I think that, I think being willing to network at tournaments, and that also means not being a jerk to other coaches because of, calls that happen, right? It's going to happen. Sometimes you do need to argue for your student, but most of the time it isn't the case. Most of the time you're just frustrated that your student lost, and that's why you're arguing so hard for it. And I had a guy, one of my students was competing against a guy, and I want to say he was up like 10, 12 points. And they gave the guy, it was an AGF, so there are challenges which I love. That's fun that you can challenge. My guy got 4 more points for a back take, and it was very clear that he got the back. Probably was on the back for 6 seconds. The other guy throws coach throws the challenge. So the score would either be 10-0 or 14-0. There's like a minute left. And he is arguing that there shouldn't have been these 4 points as if it was going to decide the match. And he was being so obnoxious. And there were literally points where his own student was saying, "Coach, whatever, please stop. You're embarrassing me." And he just couldn't comprehend it. He just couldn't comprehend how dumb he was making himself look. And the problem with doing that is you burn bridges that you don't even get to build because other coaches are like, yeah, I don't want to even be around that guy. And 2, you also hurt the relationship with your students. And also, like, for the guys that are arguing every single point on every single match and dying on every hill, I promise you that white belt you're arguing for ain't going to be training in 3 months anyway, dude. Like at bigger tournaments, I see the value in arguing more for your people. And in certain situations, when it's blatant, and it is overturnable, I definitely see the value in arguing. But most of the time, people are arguing about nothing. And just with better hypnosis on the ref and yelling for points early with refs, you could not even have to deal with that anyway. And then the other thing you can be doing at tournaments is, I never use this term, but this is a great term for this situation, is you can watch the meta. Meaning, what are people doing that's just a little different, but everybody's doing it? Is everybody trying to buggy choke? Well, if I know that, even if I have no intention of showing buggy chokes, I need to give my students a valuable way of defending it. Are guys winning a bunch of matches because they're, and it's different per tournament, it's different per area that you're in, and it's different per belt level. But if you see something broad at a tournament, that's the meta, right? That's the new meta, and the more you can identify it, the more you can prep your students for the next one. Are you seeing that guys are winning matches by playing double under passes? Even though they're barely ever passing the guard, they're just controlling every exchange. They're controlling the pace of the match by hanging out in double unders the whole time. So maybe you teach your students how to do certain submissions out of it, how to beat the double unders, how to get the hands off the thighs. All you're looking at, though, when you're looking at just, throughout matches throughout the day at the tournament, usually it's not you're looking for cool moves. So every once in a while you'll see something and be like, we got to figure out how to recreate that. But usually what's more helpful is looking at the idea of, this is what's happening in a lot of matches. 80% of the matches are won because of this. That's going to be our next focus for the next tournament. And so that is where I'll leave you guys. I hope that this one was a helpful one for you. If you guys have any questions, you can always ask. And then besides that, I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.